I'm back with a Play and Explain at 2NL Zoom on Pokerstars. I was away on my honeymoon, so let's see how rusty I am after this. I am soon going to post some more content from 25NL and also 50NL, but I thought just to get back into the swing of things, we're gonna do one on 2NL. So we open Queen Jack suited. We can go for a small c-bet because I don't think that I will get check raised enough. Obviously, if I get check raised, Queen Jack will have to be a fold, as we would have a lot of better hands to continue with. But that's what I expected, because a lot of players in this nitty pool just play too fit or fold. So I think a c-bet there just overperforms, and we saw that once again. A7 off, I could just about open it, but I decided against it this time. Pocket deuces, however, let's just open pocket deuces in the hijack, and we can just take it down. So the usual nittiness here in these early moments of the stream. Nittiness for other players, not necessarily at our end. Although I am going to fold 6 deuce off against a raise. This is, by the way, a hand that got me my biggest pot in the WSOP main event once. And I was a total fish, and I called the big blind with 6 deuce off, and then I flopped a gut shot and check raised, and then I turned my straight and I stacked the guy. I don't know what he had, but I doubled up. That was on day 2 of the main event, and so I managed to min cash after this incredible play where it was just a very fishy play and I got super lucky. But hey, no one asks about that, and I can claim that I cashed in the main event of the World Series of Poker 2019. But anyway, back to 2NL. Slightly different stake than the $10,000 buy-in at the main event. And we have a6 off in the big blind. If we get raised, we can continue, but everyone just folds to us. I am not going to complain about that. Now we have pocket 8, definitely an open. And everyone folds once again. Well, this is also a way of making money. Steady money. Here, Queen 8 suited in the small blind is a fold against a cutoff raise. 9-7 off is actually a fold on the button. However, I will raise it if I get a chance to do so, because we have a very tight big blind, but once cutoff opens, then obviously we have a very easy fold. Ace King offsuit. We were definitely open this one. And we get called. This is a flop that we can bet. We can check. I'm going to check. And once he checks again, no reason to go for a bet. We still have quite a bit of showdown value, and yes, we might lose to something like pocket deuces or pocket 5s or so, but I'm not going to, or pocket 3s, but I'm not going to bluff it. Yes, I could probably have gotten him off the pocket 3s there, but I did have showdown value, and until the river I had good chances to improve as well. So I'm not unhappy how I played it, because we don't want to be results oriented. Obviously, if I had known that he had pocket 3s, I would have double barreled and he would most likely have folded. But that's the beauty about poker. We don't usually know what our opponents hold. Okay, here this is a board that we could c-bet, we could check. I am going to check it. Ace Jack plus I would have bet, but now we can actually go for the overbet with 2 flushes out there after I checked the flop, and he probably didn't have anything, and so we just got him to fold. Ace 8 offsuit, we have a limper. Let's just check and tag him as being a non-crusher. Oh, this one is a bit of a tricky one. I am going to bet small, and I am gonna go for a bigger bet now, because we do have top 2 pair, and yes, no, okay. I mean, this is like the worst river in the deck. We'll lose to a 5 now, and we lose to any heart, and so I will check, and if he bets, then I will have to fold. Yeah, this is what's happening. He only makes it under half pot, however. How many bluffs does he have? Not many. And how many weaker hands? I mean, would you really bet something like ace jack? I don't think so. So this has been a terrible run out, and unfortunately I will have to fold to this player. But I think it was good to have gone for 2 streets of value before that, even though the flush was out there, and yes, he could have had a flush all along, but I still think that was fine. Here, ace jack off against someone who has only got a 3-bet percentage of 5%. That is a fold. Not that I would have called there ever, but I would have considered 4-betting if his stats had been different. But against someone with such a low 3-bet percentage, I cannot continue. And similar one here, 3 percentage of 4%, maybe blind versus blind, that's a bit different, but I still think this has to be a fold. Yeah, so after an okay start, now we are bleeding a bit of money, however, everything's still fine, nothing dramatic. We've only played 34 hands anyway, and now we are getting raised. I am going to 3-bet to 9 big blinds, and we get the expected fold. So obviously, because small blind raises so wide, they have a lot of folds, especially because I think that a lot of players might overfold, or at least they will over open and then maybe still call the appropriate range, but they just have too much junk in their opening range. So either way, I think the polarized 3-betting strategy in the big blind against small blind is very useful. 9-7 off. I am going to raise this one if I get the chance, because the big blind has a very low 3-bet percentage, and if we get called, then we still have position, and he's quite tight, so there's a good chance that he will fold anyway. But I don't know what small blind is doing now. Okay, that's good. And we do get a call, but we now have a c-bet. King 5 deuce. This is basically pretty much a range bet board. And again, these tight nitty players, they just fold too much, which makes it an auto-profitable one to raise. Ace 7 off. I am actually going to 3-bet this one. GTO does it a little bit, and against 2x open from the button, I am just going to attack that. It's not wrong to call. It would only be wrong to fold against a min open, but I think there you can just be very aggressive in such a spot. When the button makes it 2 big blinds, he almost never has a really strong hand, I would say, and therefore it just makes sense to just attack. And if we have the ace blocker, and it is something that GTO would do anyway, at least mix it in, I am very happy to go for the 3-bet. Now we have a min open from under the gun. 7-5 off is not good enough to continue, however, even though he's shallow stacked, and when he's shallow stacked we can call a little bit lighter. However, then we still want something better, either high cards or some sort of suitedness. King 9 off now in the small blind, definitely an open against anyone, and especially against a tight player. Now we can't c-bet much. This is a board that we would mainly check on, and he now goes half pot, which is quite annoying. We could continue. If I had the king of diamonds rather than the 9 of diamonds, I would continue, but I think being out of position on this board, that's not very favorable for us. We just have an easy fold, I think. Okay, 2.5x open on the button with king 4 suited, and we take it down. King 3 suited now. This is one I will open. It's probably just outside the opening range in GTO land, but because I saw there are a few tight players behind me, I thought I could get away with it, and I did get away with it this time. Pocket aces is definitely one I want to open with, and look how fast everyone folded. That's usually what happens when you have aces. Well, no, that's not really true, but I sometimes feel that it happens a lot. Right, so here we have this limper, and we do not have a lot. Question is whether we should just go for a stab. But look at this. Oh my goodness, he makes it 12 big blinds into 2.5. Well, I will happily fold there. Jack 9 off. We could open the small blind, but definitely a fold once someone else opens. Yeah, so I'm trying to be a little bit looser than normal despite the high rake environment, and the reason for that is because I think, or I hope, that I have a bit of an edge over players in this pool, and therefore I do want to play more pots against them, so I will open a bit looser, but you have to be careful not to make the mistake of calling too loosely, because that's what a lot of beginners do. When they think they're good, they're better than the opponents, then they start cold calling too much, and you have to realize that whenever you call, that you actually are not in a great spot, you don't have the initiative, you might get squeezed out behind you, so it's just better to raise whenever you enter a pot. Obviously you can't always do that, but if possible. Right, so now we've opened pocket queens under the gun, and this is a board where we could c-bet, but our range would prefer a check over a c-bet, and I think players are just happy to overstab, and we could either raise or call. I am going to call, and this one is not good for anyone's range. He now goes pretty big again. I don't really know what to make of it, but I will definitely have to call again. And now when the king comes, this card is... I'm not even sure if it's good for me or for him necessarily, but yeah, we do win against his, what was it, a bluff or an overplayed something? Yeah, it was a complete bluff. I mean, look at this. He called with ace-3 offsuit. That really is not great, and I'm happy I did not raise. I did not donk the river, sorry. I called the ace-10, and if he had c-bet, I would have called. No reason for us to bet. We have some showdown value and we can improve to the nuts. And now when he bets this small, I still think I have to call. I'm getting better than 4-1, so definitely a call. And when the 8 pairs, I think I will just check fold and we split. Unfortunately, I would have won it if the board hadn't paired. Right, so there, when I had the pocket queens, so I'm just going back to that one. The reason why I checked rather than bet was not necessarily because our range would prefer that, but mainly because I know that especially recreational players and someone who cold calls on the button is typically a recreational player. So these players tend to overstab once I don't c-bet, and that's why I thought that he could bluff there, which he did in the end, and same on the turn. And then on the river, I did actually consider donking just because I thought, well, if he does have, I'll just have to concentrate here, but ace high, but I still think I will fold this one. I thought that if he had a jack and I had pocket queens, then I might be able to get some value out of that hand. However, I thought that it was actually rather weak or very strong because it was quite polarized. So he would have had to had a really good jack. Yes, maybe ace jack or king jack. But if he had king jack, because the king came on the river, he would have beat me anyway. So that was the reason why I didn't donk there, because I didn't want to donk into a polarized range, because he was saying he has a good jack or better when he double barreled there and he bet fairly big on the turn. Okay, here I went for the c-bet. Now after I get called, I flop second pair, so I pick up some showdown value. I will not be able to fold out anything better, because if he has a hand like pocket nines or any jack or a six, he will not fold. So I will definitely check. And now on this river, once he checks, I have an easy check behind, and we do win against ace 10. So we got very lucky there. We only had 3 outs and we hit them on the turn. Queen jack off. We can't 3-bet this, even though, well, he goes, since he is a tight player and he goes to 3x on the button, I will fold. I think there's nothing wrong with folding in that spot. You can mix between folding and raising, and because he makes it so big, I think folding was the right choice. This one is actually a close one with jack 9 off. However, I decided to call. And I would have considered blasting it, but not now that we have turned some showdown equity. And the question is on this river, can we get called by anything better if we bet small? And I think I am going to go for a small, like a block bet, even less than 30%. And fortunately he had the 10, so we got value owned. But he might have bet the river after all, and then I would have called and lost even more money. So I don't think there was anything wrong there, because if we look at the board again, he could have something like pocket 8, 7, 6s, a 5, or ace high, and he could have called with all of those, so I think I'm okay with that bet. And also if he folds out something like ace high or queen high, then at least it would have been good for my red line. So I am okay with that. tiny bet. Here I'm gonna open king deuce suited just because I can see that these players shape up to be rather tight. So that was the reason for that. King 9 suited is definitely an open from under the gun, and now we're going to a four-way pot. We flop second pair. I would basically check my entire range. And now that it has checked through, if nice human being checks again, I think I have a good chance of having the best hand, but I still don't want to invest too much money given that we still have 3 opponents. And now we have this player going for half pot. I think I have to call because everyone's just showed so much weakness. And yes, I know it is a multi-way pot. However, he makes it half pot. If he calls, then I'm out. Oh, okay, he does call. So I am going to fold now. I am going to watch the conclusion of the hand. And let's just see. And you see, okay, we folded the best hand. He actually called with a 7 there. And I want to see what this other player had. So he had nothing, ace high. So that's kind of what I thought. But unfortunately, the other guy called in between and made me fold my hand, which would have been the best hand. Here I almost made it 48 big blinds. So obviously we only want 8 big blinds. And let's see, we get called. Ace 10 10, not an amazing board. I am going to c-bet it, but I'm going to c-bet it rather small, going for just under 25%. We can still get called by worse. Definitely any pocket pair will call against this, or at least not fold. We might get raised. This is what's happening. We're getting raised. The thing is, he shouldn't raise an ace, and he could have a 10. I mean, there are not too many 10s that he could have. So I am going to call, or not I did call. And the problem is now he makes it half pot again. It's a tricky one, but I think against this bet half pot I will have to fold, because the problem is he might be overplaying some ace, and yes, he might be completely spewing off, but then I won't be able to call a river bet anyway, so unfortunately I will have to fold this one. I will actually have to look this one up later, because I'm not entirely sure if I can actually just check behind on that flop in GTO land. So this is something I would like to check out after the session. Opening king 10 offsuit. And now I have to fold. Ace queen suited is a nice one. We are going to 3-bet it. Come on. Yep. Let's see what Anthony does. Okay, he 4-bets us. And the thing is, most players here will probably have mainly aces and kings and maybe ace-king. And against that range, we're looking pretty grim. And even though we have a very pretty hand when we are in position, but we still have to call 12 big blinds. And then the SPR will be quite small. And I will go broke if a queen comes pretty much. so I did not want to continue. You might think that's a bit nitty, but you have to consider that I was high jack, he is low jack. This is as tight as it gets as a formation in 6 max, so I am okay with that fold. We did raise there kind of for value, although you have to know that you will not necessarily get called by a lot of weaker hands. Maybe ace-jack suited, ace-10 suited, maybe king-queen suited, and then some players might call with king-jack suited or king-10 suited, queen-jack suited, but that's it then, and most other hands will be some sort of pocket pairs, and therefore it's a thin raise anyway. And once you get 4-bet, even though the hand looks really nice, I think that we just have to fold. Here I am going to isolate this limper, even though my hand is not amazing, but if there is one limper, I tend to just ignore him in the sense that I will just open my normal range for that position, and Jack-7 suited is definitely an open on the button, and in this case it actually went all right. 4-deuce suited is a tricky one. I am just going to 3-bet this one because, as I said, I just expect too many folds, and at least we have some connectivity, and we have also a flush draw. This one I will definitely not fold now. I could have considered raising, actually. I don't know why I didn't do that. And yeah, well, our hand is not particularly great with 3 overcards, and also the button might even have something like pocket 6s or so, and I think I will have to fold this one. Oh, now we're seeing the raise, so I'm just curious to see what he limped with, and unfortunately we can't see that. Queen jack off would have been an open, but it's not a continue under these circumstances. Queen 9 suited. Well, again, I would have considered raising, but not gonna do that against an open. And 6-4 off is obviously a fold. 5-3 suited would have been an open. So after 112 hands, let's check my 3-bet. 13%. That is all right. That's about what I'm aiming to, between 11 and 13%. It's good to 3-bet more rather than less at these stakes. And also what I'm doing now is I've actually increased my raise size from early position when I have a good hand, because I think at these stakes I can get away with making it 2x with mediocre hands and 2.5x with my best hands. I don't think that enough players will notice it, especially in the Zoom format, although if some of the players are watching this stream, then maybe they will adapt, but I think I can cope with that. Jack 9 is a bit of a loose open, but it's fine. Definitely still is within GTO, and I said it's a loose open because I saw the big blind stats that we had played 67% of hands, but then actually I saw that we only had 3 hands on him, so that's not really a sample size to go by. And I'm going to open to 2.5x again with king queen offsuit, even though you might say this is a mediocre hand, which probably is true, but at least it's 2 high cards. And if we get called, then I don't mind. This is a flop that kind of hits the small blind's range a little bit, even though it might not have a pair. We have a gut shot. We could go for a c-bet, but I decide to check behind this time just because it kind of hits his range fairly well. And now at this point, once he checks, I'm going to overbet because I think that this will outperform. And yeah, we get the snap fold. So yeah, the thing is, like, if he has some sort of a hand, I expect him to probe the turn. If he doesn't probe the turn, then I think he has probably something like a pocket pair that didn't connect with a flop, and or even with a turn either. And then I think the overbet on the turn performs really well against that. And he might have folded to a 3/4 bet as well, but I think the overbet really makes him fold almost everything that's not really good. And if he calls with something that's really good, I don't mind that much. I mean, obviously I prefer the fold, but at least we have outs to the nuts and also outs to an over card. And this is not bad. This is a very tight player, 5%. Definitely going to 4-bet. I'm just taking my time a bit against Creator. And if we get 5-bet jammed on, which doesn't happen, then it's usually aces, but I would still not have folded. But in this case, well, look at this, back-to-back pocket kings. In this case, it was actually quite good, and we get snap 3-bet. Okay, so let's see if we are up against the aces this time. So I'm gonna go something like this because I'm out of position. This guy, I don't know anything about him. And he calls very quickly. I do not really like this because if he has queens or jacks, oh, I do not like this either. Queens, jacks, and tens, they all win against me now, but yeah, at this point I do have an open-ender, but I have to check, unfortunately, and now even a 9 beats me. I still think I have to go for value at this point, or should I not bother going for value? What could he have? He could have ace queen. I am gonna go for value, and he calls and we win. But this is a very interesting one. Definitely looking this one up because I got a little bit lost there. And also want to see what he had. Wow, he had ace 4 of spades. What on earth did he do? This is just insane. So okay, he 3-bet me with ace 4 suited, that's fine. He called the 4-bet, which already I think is not amazing, but okay, you can do that, fair enough. Here in the big blind, I will call with pocket fours and set mine, which is not happening, so we can fold if someone bets. Yeah, easy fast fold. And then on the flop, I guess you can call my small bet here, pocket 8, against a big bet from the hijack. I will fold. Yeah, and then on the flop, I can kind of understand, like, I mean, he has some backdoors and he has ace high, but still, it's a bit loose to call there. And then on the turn, it just checked through. Fine. But then on the river, why did he call? I mean, I only made it 20 big blinds, so the SPR wasn't huge, or not the SPR, but the odds he was getting were not bad. But still, he only had ace high, so that was basically a gift to me. But still, I have to look that one up because my bet on the river might actually have been a bit too thin. But that's the beauty of these tools that we have these days, that we can just look that up. And here, this is a tricky one. I'm gonna 3-bet, but he made it 3x from early position, and we are a bit deep. Maybe I should have gone a little bit bigger. The problem is if you 4-bet, I would have to call, but we just got it through, so all good. Yeah, so at the end of the session, I am going to check GTO Wizard to see how I played those hands or how I could have played them. So bear with me. Oh, this player has 1,039 big blinds. Must have been playing for a while or just running like God. Okay, so we're not doing too bad overall. We are winning a little bit. But still, there were a couple of hands that I definitely want to look up. And I'm going to do that quite soon. I'm still going to play for a few minutes. Okay, king queen off against the cutoff open. That will be a call, but not against the 3-better. The question is whether we should 4-bet against this player, but I will not do it. It looked like he has a high 3-bet percentage because it was 17%, but the thing was that I only had 28 hands on him, so there was actually only one 3-bet that he had made. And I mean, for all we know, he could have had aces in that hand where he 3-bet, and that disincentivized me from cold 4-betting. But I did consider it because I had a king and a queen, and he was on the button 3-betting against the cutoff, so he could have been really loose there. But if you do that, you have to realize that yes, it might be profitable, but it's not massively profitable. Okay, 5, 7, 8, not a good board for us, unfortunately. However, I am still going to c-bet it, and the reason for that is that I expect him to. Okay, but he still hit 3-bet. He raised me now. But I was gonna say because I would expect him to overstab, and then I didn't want to continue, and I thought that a c-bet would perform well, but it didn't in this case. I got raised, and then I had to fold. And now I have a chance to do better with ace-queen suited. So yeah, on a board like 8-7-5, you can still c-bet some percentage of your range, but it is mostly a check. But I intentionally and purposefully deviated from that when I c-bet there just because of the profile type of that player. He was very loose, very passive, and therefore I thought that I would do better with a a c-bet. We have two players. Yeah, we are definitely going to c-bet this one with top pair second kicker. We get called. Now we have a flush draw, and I think we can continue betting. I don't want to make it too big because I want to get called by ace x or even 10x, but unfortunately he folded. So yeah, there is merit in actually betting bigger on the flop even than third pot. Third pot would be theory based, and because there were two other players in the pot, but because the big blind was such a not necessarily passive, but such a non-crusher, as I like to call them, I could have gone a little bit bigger actually and would have made a little bit more money. 6 deuce off. I will never call this hand again in the big blind, promised, even though, as I mentioned earlier, that was an amazing hand for me at the main event of the World Series of Poker. Okay, so soon I'm going to have a look at those hands that I highlighted. Let's just wrap this one up. king 8 off, opening. Okay, so we can now look at today's hand. Okay, so this was the first hand and I made a blunder apparently. So raising on the flop, pre-flop is fine. Then let's see. Okay, so what I did was the right thing. I could have checked. So checking is a thing. However, 88% small bet is fine, so that was good. And once he raises me, I have a 95% call, basically never a fold, so this one was fine to call. And now it's telling me that my fold was a mistake. And I think against GTO that's maybe possible, but I don't know, like he could have something like King Jack or club draw, so maybe I should have called. But I still think that the EV difference in real life at 2NL is not as big as it is here in theoretical land. So I think I'm actually not too concerned about that fold. And let's see the pocket king's hand, because I found that one quite tricky. And we can upload this one here. So this is a really cool tool. I keep going on about it, but it's amazing what you can do with it, and you can have it yourself, and you can even analyze a few hands a month for free, and the rest you can do if you buy a subscription. You can get 10% off with the link below this video in the description. So let's see, back to the hand. We call, we could, we raise, we could actually go all in here, but raising is fine. It's slightly the preferred play, and we get called. And on this flop, actually, I could have gone bigger. I could have bet 50%. Okay, so that is because it is quite coordinated. There's a flush draw, there's straight draw. So, and clearly it wants to get it in with pocket kings. So what I did, the bet 25 was actually the second preferred option, but almost the same percentage. So that's fine. And now check is actually not the right thing. This is interesting to see. So again, we could just jam, or we could bet 25%. And 25% is the main one, which is interesting. I would not have expected that, but check is certainly also fine. And then on the river, it does want to go all in. That's very interesting. I didn't think that on such a coordinated board it would want us to jam. But the thing is, if I had jammed in this particular hand, I would probably have made less money. So what I did was actually okay, but also the EV loss is not that huge. I could basically have done anything, but it would have been a mistake to just check when I was between checking and betting small. So I'm happy how I played it, but yeah, I should have gone all in.